What if I told you that there's only one number you need to know to understand when you can achieve financial freedom and retire, if that's what you want? Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you are looking to retire early and achieve financial freedom quickly, please comment down below and subscribe to my channel. So, what's the one number that can tell you how quickly you can achieve financial freedom? That number is your savings rate. So what's your savings rate? Savings rate is the percentage of take-home after-tax pay that you can save every year. So how do I know that this is true and just not theory? Firstly, there is math to back it up, which we will look at it in a moment. And secondly, in late 2023, I actually achieved financial freedom, based on this math as well. So with that in mind, let's just dive into the details and the numbers, and we'll discuss more about my story later. Okay, so here's a summary of the math. We'll dive into the details of how this is calculated shortly, but here's a table of the savings rate and the corresponding years you would need to retire. So let's look at the extreme ends of the spectrum, right? So if you're saving practically nothing, which is 0%, then obviously you wouldn't be able to retire at for any length of time. On the other end, if you're saving 100% of what you are earning, then you could retire today. Looks like you don't really need what you're earning, right? But for most of us, who fall somewhere in between, it's interesting to note that, for example, right, if you want to retire, under 10 years, right, you would need to save 70% of your income, not 20%, not 30%, but 70%, and so on, right? So this is, a key takeaway from this table for me, that, if you're looking to retire early or in a reasonable amount of time frame, let's say 10 to 15 years, then, you would need to at least look at saving 60 to 70%, of your income. So now let's dive into the math behind it. So here's an Excel sheet that I've created. Let's say you're earning $100 per year. I've just taken this number just to simplify things, but you can put in whatever number you want there, right? And and let's say your current annual spend is $30, so which means you're saving 70% of your income. Now I've assumed an investment return rate of 0.12, that's 12%. Which means whatever you invest, whether in equity or mutual funds, returns a 12% return every year. And I also assume that your income goes up by 10% every year, which is a reasonable assumption. And then this is something called safe withdrawal rate. So basically, this is the percentage of your wealth that you can actually withdraw every year after retirement without your money running out. Again, all of these factors can be altered, but as we shall see, these things don't change the message too much. So let's look at the table here. Let's say, so you start off with zero wealth. Let's say you have an income of $100, you spend 30, and you have a wealth of 70 at the end of the year, right? And then the second year you start off with that 70. You have some income returns, investment returns of 12%, and then your income also has increased 10%. You spend 30%, right? You spend 30%. And savings of 70%, and then you are left with a total wealth including your previous year savings, and so on, right? So with a 70% savings rate, you're actually able to save enough to retire in year number 9, where your safe withdrawal rate of 4.4% becomes or 4% becomes applicable, right? So now let's say for you're actually spending 70% of your income, right, which is a savings rate of 30%. So with this, you will need 37 years to retire, which means you're going to be close to your 60s if you started off in your 20s. Now, you might ask, what if I only get an yearly increment of 8%, right? So, and let's go back to the case of 30% spend and 70% savings. So as you can see, you can still retire in year number 9. So it doesn't make too much of a difference if your yearly increment rate varies a little bit, especially for higher savings rate. It does make a difference for lower savings rates, but for higher savings rate, it doesn't make too much of a difference. Now I'll put the link to this Excel sheet down below in the description, and you can play around with the math. But honestly, the key takeaway is that your savings rate can truly determine how much time you have to retire, right? And how many years you would need to achieve financial freedom. And in summary, the important thing is that you cannot really hope to achieve quick retirement with a 20-30% savings rate. Now, coming back to my story, right? In 2016, I actually had very little savings. That's when I realized that my savings rate is very low and I need to ramp it up. So I ramped it up to 75% and I always maintained it in the 70 to 80% range, which according to this math should enable you to retire in, let's say year number 8 or 9 at max, right? And actually speaking, surprisingly, I was able to retire in my 8th year in late 2023. So this actually works. This is not just theory. There's the math behind it, which we've seen, and this actually works. If you have to stick to your savings rate. So in summary, the important thing to note is that your savings rate really is the main thing that you need to focus on if you wish to retire in any reasonable time frame. And if you're going to retire or achieve financial independence quicker or early, let's say in the 10-year time frame or 15-year time frame, then a 20 to 30% savings rate is nearly not enough, and you would need to ramp it up and keep it at about 70% or higher to achieve that. So if you want to retire early, achieve financial independence early, take a hard look at your savings rate. Thank you for watching. Please put your comments down below. And if you want me to make more such videos, like the video and subscribe to my channel. Happy saving.